Hello, this is a video related to the topic of improve phase activities. And before viewing this video, you should read the instructor notes entitled Improve Phase Activities. And in the improve phase, we have gone through the define, measure, and analyze phases of the DMAIC process for our Six Sigma project. And at this point, we have identified potential solutions in the improve phase. And at this point, we need to evaluate, the team needs to evaluate the solutions and attempt to select what might be the most appropriate solution. And typically, there are more than one solution that's available. So we need some criteria by which we can sort among the various solutions. So the approach I'm going to use is sometimes called the solution selection matrix. This is also known as a Pugh matrix. Pugh is P-U-G-H, named after Stuart Pugh, a professor at the University of Sheffield in England, who regrettably passed away in a traffic accident. And he was looking for a way that, as an example, designers of, say, new products or services could get together and try to discuss or find objective ways to try to sort through potential designs of solutions and select the most appropriate one. So this is a typical Pugh type matrix. And basically, the key to this is listing potential solutions. Then you have a set of criteria by which you evaluate solutions. And the exact criteria really depends upon the specific application. But in this example, I'm showing you basic types of criteria, generic types that are used. And we typically go through the solutions and then we look at the solution criteria and we use a rating scale like 1, 2, or 3, or other scales you might want to use, but 1, 2, and 3 is common. Total the scores and then make a decision as to whether or not we would implement the solution. So very quickly, I just want to go through the different criteria that are used. And again, you can use different weighting schemes to decide. If you're lucky, maybe there is only a single possible solution, but this typically is not what happens in practice. So you need to be sure that it addresses root cause. If it doesn't, then why would you implement it? And on slide 19 of the improve phase notes, here is an example from a Six Sigma project of a solution selection matrix. In this case, this was a process that was machining parts, and the outside diameter, these are steel rings, were much too variable for their intended uses. So working through the phases of the DMAIC process, they had identified potential root causes in the analyze phase, and in the improve phase, they're looking at potential solutions. So you can see the root causes they're trying to address. You can take a look, by the way, there's more than one root cause. And you can take a look at the different proposed solutions. The team worked through a rating scale and then went through and evaluated what to implement, and the ones shaded in green are the solutions that they implemented. And given there were more than one root cause, you can see there were multiple solutions that were selected. And this is the basic idea of what we call a solution selection matrix. So if you look at the solution criteria, I will not go through all of these slides. These are things that you should consider. Potential improvement. Will the solution allow you to meet your goals for the project? What is the time impact? How long will it take to implement? And the cost impact. Basically, we're interested in what it's going to take and cost to implement the solution versus what's the payback if we implement it. So obviously, if it took a lot of resources to implement and there was only marginal improvement, you might consider not proceeding with that particular solution. Okay. So these are, again, our basic types of rating criteria. You can read through the notes. Just wanted to give some insight into how solution works, and you can work through the examples. And again, you have to be careful about time to implement. Again, if it's a long lead time, if it's going to take a lot of resources, and the improvements look like they're only marginal, then you'd eliminate those. You like solutions that don't take a great deal of time and resources to implement and hopefully meet the objectives of the project. And here's an example where people have put together a Gantt chart of time. That may be a tool that you can use if you're familiar with them. Microsoft Project, if you have it, will do Gantt charts. So you plan out what implementation is involved, what's involved in it, how long it's going to take. Again, you have to do cost benefit analysis. As I've said before, if it's going to take a lot of resources, a lot of time, and the payback isn't there, then the project would not be a success if we went down the path of those specific solutions. Okay, so when you think about cost, again, this somewhat depends upon the organization, but these are types of costs that you have to consider. The exact details usually depend on the organization that you work in. And basically what you're trying to do is calculate a return on investment, sometimes called the payback method. How long will it take to pay back the investment in implementing the solution? And some organizations have very strict rules about payback times, such as 3 months, 6 months, a year, and so forth. Typically, if it's more than a year, then you're going to get a lot of pushback from the administrators or managers of the organization. Okay. And we worked through some examples. Again, I will not go through all the details, but in this particular Six Sigma project, they actually estimated the project payback time was 11.5 weeks. This is typically acceptable. Usually, as I said, 3 to 6 to 12 months. Usually, most administrators or managers are happy with those lead times or time frames for payback. Okay, so this is the basic idea of solution selection, and then the next stage that would naturally come is developing an implementation plan.